In the latest video of the How to Revise series, I'm going to talk about concept mapping. Concept mapping is something that can be particularly useful in our arsenal if we've got a essay-based subject, but anything where we need to link ideas and information. The reason why it's such a useful strategy is it visually organizes information, so it's often easier to see connections. And when we can see easier connections, it stays in our long term memory much longer. It's an active revision strategy. It reinforces what we've learned by retrieving it and then trying to organize it in a structured manner. You might not have heard of concept mapping before, but you would have heard of mind mapping. It's essentially the same process, just slightly different names for it. Flow diagrams, mind maps. Here's an example of one that I've done for a Denmark case study that I've got my students to learn, which involves using a concept map, mind map. Doesn't matter what you really call it, but it's the same idea. The key idea that we're trying to get with all of these videos is that when we try these techniques, we try them without notes. So please don't go back into looking at your notes before it. Even if you don't get a very complex mind map straight away or concept map, that just shows you that there are big gaps in your knowledge you need to go to understand before you can to do this process fully. So the process of not doing your notes is as key as actually doing the process. So when you would start a concept map, I would normally start with an A3 piece of paper, and on one side, I would just do this first process and then flip it over and do the other. So the first process I'm going to do is simply dump all the information that I can remember about a topic in a set time frame, 10, 15 minutes on a piece of paper. The key thing that you have to do here is you don't organize it. Just dump the information, whatever comes out of your brain, into this list. Make the list as quickly as possible and just dump it in one huge list. So I have been using the example of doing the Green Bay Packers. I did this in just 30 seconds, and these are the first things that came through out of my head, and I just dumped them on paper, didn't organize them, first things that came out. After we've got this list, and mine's a very short list for this example, but you will have potentially lots of information about a topic you're trying to do. What I would then try to do is review that list and look for categories or groups that emerge. So I've looked at my list here of information that I've dumped out, and what I've started to see is that lots of the things that I've already dumped on the page actually relate to the offensive side of the team. So there's at least 5 things in there at offensive. There's some other ones that I've categorized as to do with college places and one to do with defense, but most of them are about offense. So for the example I'm going to continue with, I'm just going to talk about what I would do with that information once I had it. So the second stage would be to maybe look for a subcategory within that category. So I've looked just the top bit of information about Jaden Reed. He's in the wider category of offense, and I know that he's a wide receiver. So that's a position group. So what I could start to do here is that I've got my central topic, which is about the Green Bay Packers. I've then got a category, a larger category, which is that there's offense, and so there's obviously going to be defense as well. And then there would be subcategories below that, which would be things like position groups. I could do this with pretty much any topic I wanted to. I could do it with the structure of a cell, I could do it with history, I could do it with geography, anything I wanted to do, I could come into categories and then start to organize them in order. How does it look eventually? So I've got my central topic, and what I've then done is I've mapped out my knowledge by using the categories to form the basis. What I didn't talk about in the last stage was to really be good at this, I actually need to write words in between the boxes. Why do I do this? Because a lot of people are going to actually eventually write these up in essays. And so it's connectives that are simply getting the ideas to flow together, a bit like writing sentences in an argument. Here I can see that I've got Green Bay Packers, which is made up of offensive players, including wide receivers such as Jaden Reed, number 11, Michigan State. All the information I need to know about him. I could have made his into several more boxes below if I wanted to. But what I could then do is I could put another wide receiver in there, in offense, I can have another category, so maybe quarterbacks or offensive line. What I'm getting is I'm organizing this information into categories and then showing how they all link together. Because it's visual, I can remember it much, much better. What I'd like you to do is go and have a go at this, try it out. If you find in that first stage that you haven't got a lot of information, then maybe do a little bit more revision on the topic before you do this so that you can actually try and come up with at least one arm of your concept map very, very well.